Forum begins as we were seeing at the conclusion of the business meeting is not part of the meeting. People wishing to testify are encouraged to submit their full testimony in writing and summarize their comments at the meeting. Public comments should be limited to 3 minutes per speaker. The number of speakers allowed present depends on the number of people wishing to address the board and the time remaining as scheduled. I think we're fine. We have, I think, 9 people that have signed up and want to testify. I know that Director Bethel needs to leave at about 11, so there's a couple folks I'd like to make sure we get up here right away. So I'm going to make sure that the Opal folks are called up first. I'm going to call Perla Alvarez and Hollow Williams up, and then up on deck is Vanya Laredo, is it? So I want the first 2 come on up, and I'll let you decide which of you wants to go first.
I'll go first.
Right.
Perla. Yeah.
Right.
So good morning, members of the board. My name is Perla Alvarez, and I'm an organizer in training with Opal Environmental Justice Oregon. I live in East Portland, and I depend on public transportation to travel to places such as work. As a bus rider, I am unhappy with the frequency of the buses in East Portland, especially of bus 71. There have been times where I have to wait for the bus 71 for about 40 minutes. And one time, in the winter, on my way home from school, I had to wait 30 minutes. And when it finally arrived, the bus was full. So it did not take me and the people who had been waiting for the bus with me. So I had to wait an additional 15 minutes for another bus to go by and pick me up so I could go home. And currently, as an organizer with Opal, I have heard stories about East Portlanders who are transit dependent and are also dissatisfied with the system. For example, I met Melanie in the corner of 82nd and Foster. She's unhappy because her bus number 10, does not run after 8 p.m. and it doesn't run on weekends. She feels that the $5 that she has to pay every day to use TriMet is not worth the sacrifice. She gets out from work after the last bus 10 of the night has already passed, so she has no other option but to walk for about 30 minutes to her house. She also has considered moving houses because she can't go another winter at night under the rain and the cold just to walk home for 30 minutes. She also said that she can go shopping during the weekends because there's no service, and she doesn't want to walk 45 minutes to get to a grocery store and come back with the, carrying the bags of groceries. So I think it is not fair that transit-dependent people do not have the accessibility to just public transportation. So please keep in mind these stories, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good morning, TriMet board members. For the record, my name is Hollow Williams. I am an organizer in training with Opal Environmental Justice Oregon. I am transit dependent, and as a bus rider, I would like to share some stories about some TriMet experiences. For the past couple years, I had been working in group homes in different cities, Milwaukee, Aloha, and Gresham. I live downtown, and it usually takes me an hour or more to get to these places. Most of the time, I got out of work at night at 8 p.m., 10 p.m., and even 11:30 p.m. Having to wait for the bus for a decent amount of time in the dark, far from my home, is stressful, especially in places I'm not too familiar with. As a woman of color, my safety is number one, in particular, traveling alone. For instance, once while waiting for the bus at night, a man pulled up in a car. I was alone, and the bus wasn't going to arrive for another 10 minutes or so. This made me feel vulnerable and alone. Bus frequency is my safety. As an organizer in training, I have heard similar stories from women. I spoke with a woman named Phyllis who has to travel from Milwaukee to St. John's. Her buses don't come frequent enough, and it takes her over 2 hours to get to her destination. I also spoke with Marilyn, who has 2 jobs. While talking with Marilyn, bus frequency was a factor for her getting from the first job to the second job on time. As a bus rider and an organizer in training, I believe safety and bus frequency go hand in hand. If the buses were more frequent, I wouldn't have to fear for my safety and think about other women's safety. Thank you very much for listening to my testimony.
Thank you. It's a very interesting connection I hadn't thought about, so thank you for that. So next up is Vanya.
Good morning, TriMet board members. You all seem more attentive than testifying in front of the legislature. For the record, my name is Vanya Laredo, and I'm the coordinator for OPAL's Organizing Training Program. In the last 6 weeks, I've heard many stories from transit riders about the experiences with TriMet. While some are good, a lot of them have had a lot of bad experiences with the services that TriMet is providing. And one of these stories was from a young woman named Lindsay. She rides the bus for about an hour and a half every day to go to work. She has explained to me the long walks that she takes in the dark in order to get to her first bus stop. It takes her about a mile to get there. The reason for her long walk is due to the fact that there's no frequent service for the line 10, especially in the weekends. She feels threatened and unsafe since there is not enough lighting and the sidewalks are dark for her to see where she's going. This young woman feels vulnerable and unsafe and strongly believes that TriMet should make the changes to her service. I believe that the consequences of not having reliable transportation only increases women's vulnerability. As the previous organization training has also expressed, women's safety is a huge concern for Trice-independent riders. There's a risk in their safety in order to take the service while the service is servicing them. Again, this is TriMet. We should not be catering to the service providers. The service should be catering to us. And this is not an isolated incident. As you've heard, there's many women who really fear for their safety, especially because they have the first shifts in the morning. So I hope that we can work and take this into consideration towards restoring frequency in order to provide security for the people who use your services. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Great. Pam Trace and Leslie Foran, Elders in Action.
Mr. Chairman, may I just address them?
Excuse me?
May I address Opal for a
Of
second?
course you may. I'm sorry.
I'm waiting for a phone call. I offered to go out with some of your members on bus rides, so if you don't have my number or card, I'll give you another one. Okay.
We have our first Saturday next Saturday, so we'll make sure to follow up with you.
Okay. Weekends are very bad for me, but weekdays are better. Thank you.
All right. Pam,
Good
welcome.
morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Board. My name is Pam Trace. I'm the Executive Director of Westside Economic Alliance. We are a member-based nonprofit association that advocates for a healthy economic climate on the west side of the Portland metropolitan region. I will be brief today, but I am here today to tell you how important TriMet Westside Service Enhancement Plan is to the businesses and the citizens of Washington County. The Westside Economic Alliance Transportation Committee has provided significant input to the TriMet staff in the development of the plan. Our Transportation Committee Chair, Frank Angelo, attended the TriMet board meeting held in Hillsborough and gave our committee's full support to your plan. We understand that you have many competing priorities, and all of them competing for your resources. I urge you to stay focused on the West Side Service Enhancement Plan you have set in place for the improvement of the transportation services that are badly needed on the West Side. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you for allowing me to be here.
Thank you for coming, Pam. Appreciate it. Leslie.
Good morning. My name is Leslie Foran, and I'm the Executive Director of Elders in Action. We're a local nonprofit that serves as the federally mandated advisory committee to City of Portland and to Multnomah County. Today I'm here as a rider of the number 35 in North Portland, daily to downtown. But today I'm here advocating on behalf of the 100 of older adults who can't be here on their own behalf. The most common thing that we hear when talking to older adults in our community is their need for safe and accessible transit. This is often a deciding factor in an older adult's ability to live independently and vibrantly in our community. Many of our clients are transit dependent. Their ability to access services, to go to medical appointments up at the VA, to go grocery shopping, or go and visit friends. The increasingly frequent service on many of your busiest lines would greatly improve the quality of life for our older adults in our community. More frequent service means that when the bus does arrive, it won't be packed to capacity, so a senior won't have to worry about finding a seat or being able to maneuver their mobility device. These might not seem like big issues to younger, able-bodied transit users, but to an older adult, this is imperative. These barriers often lead to isolation and withdrawal from vital activities. The sooner TriMet can restore frequent service, the stronger our entire transit system will be. As the age wave continues and our community grows older, our bus and light rail will allow older adults to remain independent in our community. Let's prioritize making these transit options as robust as possible to ensure an age-friendly community for all Portlanders. Thank you.
Well said. Thanks. Thank you. Good comments. Owen Ronchelli from Lloyd TMA and Sarah Angel from the Swan Island TMA. This is a tag team, right? All right.
Thank you to the TriMet board for your time in receiving public feedback regarding a possible decision to restore transit service to pre-recession levels. For those of you who know him, Lenny Anderson, my colleague, sends his wishes from his cabin. He's here in spirit. I'm Sarah Angel, Director of the Swan Island Transportation Management Association, a project that began as a freight movement project by getting folks out of their cars through promoting employer transit subsidy programs and employee outreach. We make room for freight on the island's limited roadways. I'm strongly in favor of TriMet's consideration to restore service to pre-recession levels. Not only is this a financially sustainable move, but it comes at a vital time of economic recovery for Swan Island and for our metropolitan area at large. Swan Island is one of the region's most important employment centers, a host to several of the city's largest businesses. Employment is at 10,000 and growing, and several of these businesses anticipate dramatic expansion in the coming years. We want to be prepared to meet these demands, particularly in the transportation area. In the 2009 recession, we saw Swan Island ridership plummet virtually overnight from roughly 500 to 300 a day. We're pleased to see, as employment levels and ridership began to recover, that TriMet's decision last year supported this in removing the Swan Island 85 from the chopping block. But while folks are beginning to get back to work down on the island, we hear from all of our business members that they've been hiring. Jobs are still precious. We know from testimony that an employee's inability to get to work on time is a very real jeopardy to employment security, particularly for hourly employees. And although your decision at hand regards frequent service lines, this impacts other lines such as the Swan Island 85. The 85 line running from the Rose Quarter to the island during peak hours is our employees' crucial links to jobs. Many of our transit riders have multiple transfers. Many are unlicensed and are transit dependent. More frequent service to the Rose Quarter improves what would otherwise mean precarious connections. And of course, while we would love to see the 85 restored to 20-minute service all day, I realize this is a stretch. This is the next best thing. And I will add, it will enable my sale to Daimler to launch a subsidy program. It will make that all the easier. And helping businesses thrive by providing good employee access can translate to subsidy programs. And of course, subsidy programs generate more transit revenue. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Owen Ron Kelly, and I am the program director at the Lloyd Transportation Management Association in the Lloyd District. We represent about 90 businesses and about 13,000 district employees. We've worked very closely with TriMet since the mid-90s, and we've created a great working partnership. We have over 40 businesses and about 5,000 employees that participate in the Universal Pass Transit program, and we help orchestrate that for our district businesses, and we're very pleased for the success of that program, and in turn it's meant a lot of success for reducing employee vehicle trips. We also do a lot of other alternative transportation programs, and that piece, along with the Universal Pass, has been really successful, the key to our success. And so in that, with the cuts to frequent service for district buses primarily, it's been more difficult to sell those passes to our district employees. They see, unfortunately, they see less value in it with reduced service. And as a result, restoring that frequent service is a critical piece to making sure that transit continues to be viable, not only for users in the district, but employees, visitors, and the like, those that come to visit the Lloyd district for the convention center, for the Rose Quarter events, et cetera. So a critical piece. One of the feedback that we've been getting from some of our riders is particularly on the 4 and number 6, a lot of overcrowding, particularly in the peak hour, which is somewhat inevitable, but by restoring some of that service, I think will help alleviate some of those issues. So thank you for giving us this audience and your time. Thank you.
Thank you for coming, both of you. Really appreciate it.
Bruce?
Please, just a minute. I think you have a question here.
For Owen?
Yes.
If you know, there's 3 large projects scheduled to be built in the Lloyd district.
Right.
And I don't have the numbers of apartments. Do you know how many people that you think they're going to add to that district?
It's a good point. We've primarily been an employment district. We only, to date, we only have about 1,000 housing units in the district, and we're set to almost double that. I think within the 3 projects that I'm thinking of,
it's one owner. And
there's one owner. There's also another apartment complex close to the proposed convention center hotel location. And it's altogether, it's close to 1,000 units. So we're literally almost doubling our residential base. So that's going to open up a whole new wave of ridership. Our organization for years has been primarily focused on getting employees to and from work, but this is going to change everything. So we're excited about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. All right. Next to Roseanne Marmer, I hope I've pronounced or got that correctly, with Home Forward, and Alex Hawk. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
So Roseanne?
Thank you. My name is Roseanne Marmore, and I work for Home Forward. We are the housing authority for Multnomah County. I'm here to talk about the critical need to increase frequent service for people who live in our housing who have a low income. Home Forward is responsible for 15,000 households in Multnomah County. Some are voucher holders and some are in our public and affordable housing. Many of these people live on 0 incomes or low incomes, and they're very dependent on transportation to get where they need to go. Others that live in our housing work and live in poverty. Working people living in subsidized housing are rent burdened. They pay more than 30% of their income for rent. Frequent bus service increases the ability to get to work and to be there on time, and it allows people the access needed to get to the grocery stores, doctor appointments, and to socialize and not be isolated, as was pointed out earlier. TriMet's frequent service lines link our residents to the downtown core, and the lines the 4, the 6, the 9, the 12, the 71, and the 72 directly affect the residents living in Home Forward housing. Increasing access to those services will directly affect the lives of our residents for the better. Currently, residents struggle with low wages that don't meet basic necessities. People who work make about $10 an hour, which is $20,800 a year, and that's your bank clerk or your grocery clerk. That translates to 40% of the median family income. Please consider increasing services for the working poor and people who are elderly and disabled in Multnomah County. Increase access to work, grocery stores, and health care. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
How many units are going to be built up there in southwest Portland, Hillsdale?
120 units are currently being...
120, okay. So there's, and that's served by a couple buses now, I know, right by the front door there.
Yes.
Okay. So when you say a household unit, is there a multiplier? Like a ballpark, how many people per unit?
Well, it depends. In elderly and disabled sites, there are often studios and one bedrooms, and there are about 6,600 units that are public housing and affordable. And then there are 8,700 units that are voucher holders, and often those are families or also singles. Families range from, 3 kids, 1 to 3 kids.
Yes.
Depends. So, but we're talking, we directly impact 11,000 children that live in our housing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Alex, hope we're doing okay there.
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm slowly recovering. My name is Alex Hawk. I've been writing since forever. And I'm really concerned with West Side Service. And while TriMet has repeatedly said that we're not biased for rail service, it's quickly becoming apparent for that. While Mr. General Manager says, are we a healthcare agency or are we a transit agency? Well, that begs the question, are we a transit agency or are we a MAX agency? Are we a rail development agency? Since 2009 and since 2004 even, I've seen MAX get new service. I've seen Green Line, the Yellow Line, and now PMLR and WES be built at the expense of existing bus service. It's just the 94, the 12, and several others that I can't even mention have all been on the chopping block for budget shortfalls since forever. And not once have I seen a single MAX line, or not once have I seen West Commuter Rail be on the chopping block for service cuts. And it begs the question, how much is West costing us compared to our union health benefits? Just how much is it costing? It doesn't make any sense. We still have the oldest bus fleet in the nation. Okay, great. We're pulling out 3100s and we're continuing to buy new buses until our service, the average age of each bus is 8 years old. But why did it take this long to do that? Why did the recession delay bus purchase, but it didn't delay West's construction, which we still went several $1 million over budget on? And why did Max Green Line go forward during this recession? So we had 2 rail projects built during the recession, and we had 0 bus purchase. Yes, I realize that 2900s went into service around 2008, 2009, but that was only 40-ish, and those all went to Merlo Garage. I see a rubber stamp yes for all kinds of contracts for resolutions, but when are we actually going to make contracts with New Flyer again? When are we going to make contracts with Alexander Dennis Limited for higher capacity buses? Again, BRT would be much more profitable than a MAX line, and it would be much more cost effective. True, BRT costs more to run than MAX, but in the long run, I see BRT as being much less intrusive than a MAX line. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I have Patrick Stanley, who was with Transit Rider PDX, And the last one I had on the list was Lane Jensen, and I don't see Lane in the audience anymore. So I think you are our last speaker. Patrick, welcome.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Board, for opening the door and letting us people be able to walk in and listen to what's actually going on in the agency. I appreciate that. My name is Patrick Stanley. I run the Transit Writer PDX blog. I've been an expert of TriMet, studying it since I was 7 years old. I'm also a student at Portland State University, Business Administration Management, Human Resource Management, Supply and Logistics Management. I know how a business is supposed to run. And I've been someone who in the last 4 years of school has taken TriMet to Portland State. I've never driven my car to Portland State, and it's worked for me. But it's obvious that there's been issues over the last few years, and some of those issues we have little control over. The recession did take a hit on income tax revenue, and there's little that can be done about some of that stuff. But there's been issues when it comes to where priorities are, and I think that one of the main things is that I was looking at the mission and vision statement, which actually I noticed had just been revised over like the last couple weeks. And right now there's 6 key things on there that you're providing service that's safe, dependable, responsive, inclusive, accountable, and easy to use. And I think that some of those things that like the safety thing is a bullet thing where it's like, let's really focus on this. But I look at those as 2 things as being kind of questionable, and that's responsive and dependable. In management, we talk about responsive management as being the difference between proactive and reactive management. Proactive is taking a lead, looking for what's possible that could go wrong, and let's fix it now. Reactive is let's wait until someone like Joe Rose writes an article about it, and then let's fix it then. And let's say, oh, we've been working on this for a long time. Well, whether or not in the back room that's happening, I don't know. And I think that that's something that needs to be addressed so that people can actually begin to trust that the best is what the people really need and what the city really needs is the best and is being taken seriously by the board, by management, and by anyone else involved. The other important thing is the dependability. There's a lot of lines that are designed terribly, like this line 6, which will always be off schedule, 14 minutes off schedule in the afternoon, just because there's no way to go outbound, there's no layover. And I think that if you read the Twitter comments that people have, and you'll find that what they really want is their service to be on time. Because I was in Denver, buses arrived on schedule, you could ride across town for $2.25, 3-hour ticket. It's a $79 monthly pass. And not only that, they have a 15-member board of directors that's elected by the people, and they're building light rail almost faster than TriMet. It's possible. So I would like to see that. Thank you.
Patrick, thank you for coming. Good comments. Good comments. That concludes the people who've signed up. Is there anybody else in the audience that I've missed who wanted to speak in public forum? I guess seeing none, I just know that Lane's gone. I'm sorry he decided to have the outburst at the beginning of the meeting. I do want to thank Tiffany for being here because he doesn't understand that. But he doesn't understand until the legislature appoints somebody new. She remains in this position, so she's still in her second term here. And we can probably keep that going a really long time. So again, we're glad you're here. I guess the other thing I see, frequent service is a real common theme here, and this board, as you're hearing, is focusing on that. And I think you also heard from the strategic financial plan that we do want to get away from the issues of the day and really make sure we're focusing on the long term and where we want to go as an organization. And so I want you to know this board is focused. And so I think look at the schedule that was outlined in terms of that financial plan, because I think that is going to be the roadmap in terms of how we start to move the organization forward. So stay tuned. We look forward to your continued engagement, and we thank you for coming today and providing us your comments. With that, I think we will conclude today's meeting. All right. Thank you all.